One of the career fields that promises a very bright future is that of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity specialists are needed on a large scale because of threats to the national security, industrial security, and online internet safety. Cyber attacks can be anything from potential terrorism to financial disaster. And if this field interests you, we may have just what you're looking for here at Metropolitan Community College. We're going to discuss cybersecurity education at the college and potential careers in the field next. I'm your host, Kent Pavelka, and this is MCCTV. If you believe you may have an interest in information technology for a career, then a focus on cybersecurity study at MCC might be what you're looking for. Here to discuss what's happening at Metropolitan Community College in cybersecurity education, Gary Sparks, information technology instructor, and Guillermo Rosas, information technology instructor at MCC. Good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank
you. Quick overview of what we're doing in cybersecurity education. Gary, maybe you could start and tell us a little bit about what the field in general is about cybersecurity.
Well, cybersecurity has been growing for about a decade now and has really exploded over about the last 5 years. Cybersecurity is very much what you had talked about earlier. It could be defense, national defense, it could be financial, it could be personal, and we're seeing more and more of that growing. It's protecting the systems, the network, and the person against actors, bad actors from not only inside the United States but outside the United States.
Yeah, Guillermo, what about cybersecurity education in light of what Gary just said?
Cybersecurity education, we've had a program in place for about 10 years here at the school. We just recently received a designation under the NSA, National Security Administration, as a Center for Academic Excellence, which gives us a certain level of, props, I apologize for the choice of words, behind our degree. But with our cybersecurity program, we have a fully featured program in place, the line to industry certifications that's designed to prepare students to go into the field in an entry-level position. Mm-hmm. One of the challenges with cybersecurity is that it is not one thing. Cybersecurity touches on so many facets of the economy, as Gary alluded to, but outside of IT, it also touches on things like transportation and shipping, and we can't obviously hit all of those aspects of the economy, but we can prepare our students to have a foundational knowledge and skill set to go out into the field and to continue to learn within the context of their profession.
Is there a degree offered in cybersecurity?
Yes, there is. It's an Associate of Applied Science degree, and we'd had one that was transferring to the University of Nebraska, and when we started pursuing this designation, the NSA wanted to see a degree in place, a 2-year degree in place. So this formalizes that particular degree and allows the students to be able to start here. And because we are designated as a Center of Academic Excellence, the University of Nebraska, Omaha and Bellevue University are also designated. So the pathway for the students to start here and then go on there for their bachelor's and master's programs is a path they can take.
Take us through what happens educationally in this endeavor here at MCC. You start off in the basic IT classes, and then what?
They start off basic IT classes. It's what we call a core education in IT. One of the key classes is networking. That's where a lot of cybersecurity is centered around. So the students get a good background on how the technology works, so they understand the basics on that. And then they start taking their cyber classes. One of the first ones that they experience is kind of a general type of class, and actually business students can take it, medical students can take it. It goes across the entire spectrum, and it allows them to be able to learn about policy, learn about non-technical attacks that typically happen. And that's what we're seeing. That's one of the biggest threats right now. 91% of cyber attacks start with a phishing attack. Hmm. And once they gain access. PH.
I-F. I won't try to spell it, but it's not F-I-S-H.
Right.
Yeah, phishing.
Right.
I interrupted you. I beg your pardon.
But that 91% of the time, that's the first type of attack. And if that attacker can gain access to an email of an executive, then they'll leverage that and get the employees of that organization to do whatever they want them to do, posing as that executive.
Wow. So we're talking to some degree about what you guys refer to as a skills gap, correct?
Correct.
What is that about?
So that skills gap, we are looking at a shortage of tens of thousands of technicians across the country. Gary, I don't know if you've pulled the recent numbers, but I think we had something like 3,000 here in Nebraska?
There's currently nationwide, both public and private sector, 313,000 plus vacancies
To do what?
in cybersecurity, to be able to go in, help organizations better secure their information, their systems, and help them better protect their employees and protect the mission of that organization.
And that can span a gamut of skills, all the way down to the secretary who's handling paperwork and how you handle personal information for employees, all the way to the very technical aspects of how to actually secure a network and defend it from exploit
Right.
from the outside. So the skills gap is very broad, and it's not just the technical, it's people skills. How do you communicate these to, as Gary said, to the executives, but not only the executives, how do you turn around and make grandma aware that some of the stuff that she or your grandparents are doing online can have ramifications for their own personal lives?
I gotta jump in here and ask you. Give me a 1-minute explanation of the most basic thing Grandma ought to be aware of here.
Classic example that what we're seeing between January and April 15th, we are seeing IRS scams. The attacker will call through a Vish, another different type of spelling, and they will tell them that the IRS is filing a lawsuit against them if they don't go down to Best Buy or go down to Apple and get these gift cards and give them the numbers within 45 minutes, that they're going to jail.
Don't ever believe anything you get in an email from the IRS. They don't send emails.
Well,
right?
this is by voice.
Yeah.
Voicemail.
This is by
Correct.
voice. They'll call them and actually do that. In my public presentations I do, the Midlands Police Department actually got one of those calls, and one of their officers, they recorded it, and they gave me permission to use that as part of the education. And they were saying that if he didn't do this in 45 minutes, the sheriff was going to come and arrest him and put him in jail.
Wow.
Yeah. The common guidance from the IRS is the IRS will communicate by USPS, not by telephone,
Correct.
and not
Yes.
by email, certainly.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. What do we want to educate our viewers about regarding cybersecurity education here at MCC?
Well, we have a program for students that are looking to get into that, or if they're already working in the IT field and want to retool going into cybersecurity. For the general audience, we also offer presentations to nonprofit groups and community organizations. I've done several of those already. I did one for a homeowners association on what they, as a homeowner, need to be concerned about in cybersecurity and how to protect themselves and their homes. For example, one of the recent attacks that we're seeing, that there's a Russian actor that's going in and they're compromising the home router, and that gives them access to that network, and they collect account numbers, usernames, passwords, and things like that from the people that live there.
How do you know that's happening?
You don't know.
So what do you do if you don't know?
Well, it's a lot of it is we give them advice on how to keep their systems current.
Passwords.
Passwords are kind of going by the wayside. Systems like Google and Facebook, they're now using what we call two-factor authentication. So they would enter their username and password, but through a separate system, they would enter what we call a token, a number, that it's less likely that attacker can gain access to that.
And in practicality, that means on another device,
Another device.
you're asked to confirm that you,
Right.
Correct.
whatever it is you're doing.
It can be coming through their phone, and it's an app that goes on the phone. It's called an Authenticator App, and it generates a sequence of numbers that talks back to the server, and after a minute, that number changes.
So when you're asked if you want to do two-factor notification, you always say yes, correct?
Yes, if you can. Yes.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
I was going to say ish, because that's another part of that skills gap, because in order to make all of that work, there is a level of proficiency, technical proficiency you have to possess, because it presents its own set of problems, as we've run into with our own
Two-factor does?
two-factor here at the school
Yes.
and in our own private lives. So it's kind of
So you offer information about this to the public. By how would someone arrange a
They can reach out to me at my email address. We also have the center site, which is cyberomaha.com, and it has a link there to get in contact with me. Since August, I've done 2 businesses and done hour training for them on types of attacks, and then done 2 community organizations with another one coming up here at the end of January, and then a nonprofit has asked me to do one in April for them.
You mentioned those numbers of job availabilities.
Yes.
Will you repeat that real quick?
313,735, and that's based off of cyberseek.org.
Nationwide?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
nationwide.
What about locally here?
Locally, we're seeing about 2,600 in Nebraska.
And are we able to fill that need?
At this point, no. We're critically short. Forbes magazine is estimating over 2 million vacancies by the end of 2019.
And these are full-time?
Full-time. Some companies they'll be the administrator will wear 2 hats.
Gotcha.
They're the administrator, but they're also doing cybersecurity. But
Point being that if you have any inkling or interest,
yes,
could be a real profitable area for you.
Yes,
Yes.
and it's definitely growing.
The specialization of cybersecurity, is it? Who does it appeal to? Who is it for?
Well, we get a pretty wide range. Historically, what we've seen a lot of is former law enforcement officers, because they already have that curiosity, that suspicious type of thought process. So, and a lot of it is just noticing out of the ordinary things. So the skills that they've developed over the years being a law enforcement officer fits right into that. Others that we've seen that fit into that is intelligence from the military and things like that because of their background and training. Does that prevent somebody who doesn't have any of the background? No, it doesn't. If they're and what we found is someone who has that passion, they will pursue it and
Yeah.
they will learn, and doesn't necessarily have to tie to a certification. There's one gentleman I got to hear a couple of years ago. That's what he has, is passion. And he is very knowledgeable and very dangerous, but he's wanting people to learn and be able to better secure systems.
Best way to explore this opportunity at MCC is what?
Contact
MCC
Gary.
and-
Contact
yeah.
me. Cyberomaha.com is a great place to start as well. It provides email addresses for both Gary and myself and our general inbox. Both Gary and I, as well as our other faculty, are more than happy to take the time to show you our facilities, our capabilities, let you sit in on a class possibly, or just sit down and talk cyber.
Cyberomaha.org?
.com.
.com.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, or mccneb.edu.
And there's a link under the academics tab from the main college site that goes back to that center site also.
So when I get online, we get done here, what do I need to watch for?
We need to watch for?
Yeah. What's the number one thing that I should?
Well,
be
anything
considering?
out of the ordinary. If you're going to visit your bank or you're going to a secure site, a lot of times people say, "Oh, look for the padlock." A colleague of mine says, "That's an icon. I make it show up anytime I want to."
Yeah.
Look at the protocol. HTTPS tells you that connection is being encrypted. So if there's somebody doing a man-in-the-middle attack, they're watching the traffic go across the network. All they're seeing is obfuscated data. There's nothing they can use with that.
So you want to see HTTPS.
You want to see HTTPS.
Very good.
So that, always have a suspicious mind. If it doesn't look right, ask. One of the companies that I helped, and there was a spearfish attack on W-2s, and it was successful because the employee was very new. The employee got an email from supposedly the president of the company asking for the W-2s. It was encrypted, but then she sent the password too.
Oh boy.
And so we're seeing more and more of that type of attack occurring. One of the gentlemen who does cyber investigations, his name is William Abagnale, or Frank Abagnale. He said one of 2 things typically happen on the breaches they've investigated. An employee does something they're not supposed to, or they don't do something they're supposed to. One, the other, or both have been contributing factors.
Okay, thanks, guys. Would you just a brief taste of what the opportunities are in cybersecurity
so.
education at MCC? Thank you, Guillermo.
Thank you.
Gary, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us on MCCTV. Our goal is to better acquaint you with the mission, leadership, and the reach of the college. I'm Kent Pavelka for Metropolitan Community College.